The Valerian High Empire had catalogued 10,342 species. It had conquered 9,701 of them. The rest bowed voluntarily. They had faced hive minds, liquid intellects, sunwalkers, and time loopers. None had amused them. None had mocked them. Then, they found us. A rogue signal. From a blue world. Low tech. Incomplete genetic modifications. Primitive media. The Emperor ordered first contact. A delegation was formed. The best translators. Gold-armored diplomats. Ritual gifts. They arrived on Earth expecting awe. Instead, they found stand-up comedians. Laughter, memes, satire, and worse, humans laughed at the Empire itself. The Empire assumed it was cultural instability. They didn't realize the danger until it was too late. They arrived in orbit like a prophecy. 15 Valerian dreadnoughts, arranged in perfect geometric formation. Gold plating, solar flares bending around their hulls. No communication, no threats, just presence, intimidation by symmetry. The UN scrambled jets, then paused. No weapons fired, no cities targeted, just one message broadcast worldwide. We are the Valerian Flame Lords. We demand audience. Naturally, the internet lost its mind. First, the memes. Flame Lords trended for 12 hours before getting replaced by candle daddies. Someone edited their ship footage to look like an ad for a luxury shampoo. One teen added captions, "Coming to moisturize your planet." Within minutes, reaction videos poured in. POV, aliens invade, but you just clocked out of your shift. Did Earth just get colonized by runway models? The Valerians didn't notice, or pretended not to. They landed a delegation in Geneva, armored in radiant alloys and glowing sigils. The leader's name translated as High Incandescence Vorthan of the Fourth Flame. He strode into the UN assembly like a walking bonfire. He expected silence, awe, submission. Instead, phones were already out. Someone live-streamed it with the caption, "Yo he thix flame zaddy." The delegation stood motionless as humanity's first official reaction was to hand them tacos. A junior diplomat, mid-bite. "Have you guys tried these?" Game changer. A reporter asked if Vorthan's glow was natural or from a skincare regimen. Vorthan, unused to questions not written on scrolls of deference, blinked. Once. Slowly. It was the most emotion he showed for the rest of the day. Earth's greeting protocols were bypassed for content. TikTokers reenacted the landing using dogs and tinfoil. An influencer posted a duet, her makeup tutorial, side by side with Vorthan walking. When your alien oppressor has better contour than you, the Valerians tried to assert control. Their translator pulsed with ancient authority. "Kneel before the Flame Lords." Silence. Then someone from the Australian delegation shouted, "Are you guys cosplaying?" Laughter. One guy threw confetti. Another played the Imperial March on kazoo. UN security requested decorum. UN delegates requested selfies. The Valerians requested respect. They got retweeted. A global tour was scheduled. The Valerians anticipated reverent crowds. What they got, flash mobs, interpretive dances. One flash mob dressed entirely as minions. At the Vatican, a choir of schoolchildren sang a remix of their greeting message in autotune. Vorthan watched in stunned silence as the words, "You want our knees?" "Sorry, bro," echoed through a basilica. A prankster duct-taped a "honk if you love plasma swords" sign to their diplomatic vehicle. They honked. Eventually, out of curiosity, in Tokyo, a pop group released a single, "Burn Me Like Vorthan." It hit #1 in 17 countries. By day 4, one delegate asked if Earth was under the control of some humor-based defense protocol. He was given a cinnamon roll and told to relax. At the UN's New York gala, the delegation expected speeches. Instead, laser tag, and a guy dressed as Shrek who photobombed every official photo. One Valerian tried to give a solemn address on peace through dominance. He was interrupted by a flash mob doing the Macarena. By the end of the week, their mood shifted. Not anger, not confusion. Something worse, insecurity. The Emperor's envoy attempted a final show of strength. "We are descended from stars. You are children of dirt," a child replied, holding a potato. "And yet you're here on our lawn." They were called Tall, Glowy, and Insecure by BuzzFeed. It stuck. A parody account amassed 5 million followers overnight. A Valerian T posted hourly updates. Vorthan tried kombucha. His aura dimmed. Send help. Their ships were scanned for defense capabilities. Instead, Earth found that one ship had been broadcasting a distress beacon this whole time. The message? They don't take anything seriously. It's unnerving. One human strategist put it best. They came expecting fear. We gave them memes, processed sugar, and Shrek. Let's see how they handle that. The Valerians retreated to orbit for cultural recalibration. Translation: group therapy. Earth's media declared victory. Invaded by aliens, one using Wi-Fi and mild disrespect. The story would spread, not just of the Flame Lords, but of Earth, a planet that fights war with Wi-Fi, reverence with irony, and diplomacy with TikToks. The Valerian High Command had never encountered mockery. Resistance? Of course. Terror? Naturally, but laughter. That was new and unnerving. Their first corrective measure was military theater. 12 warships flew over Earth's northern hemisphere in formation, unleashing a display of tactical plasma beams into the upper atmosphere. Their goal? Shock and awe. Human reaction? A supercut video on YouTube with fart sound effects synced to every explosion. One video was titled, "Alien Overlords, but Make It Looney Tunes." Another, more sophisticated, turned the footage into a kinetic typography poem titled, "Oops, All Lasers." The Valerian PR unit scrambled. They issued a formal message to Earth's media conglomerates. Your irreverence will not be tolerated. Response: the message itself was remixed into a lo-fi track. 24 million streams by sunrise. The Empire's chief strategist, General Orvex, attempted a direct transmission. A booming speech delivered in 28 languages simultaneously. Surrender your species or be unmade. Within 3 hours, it had become a TikTok audio trend. Dance tutorials, makeup transformations, even a cooking video that began with, Step 1, surrender your species. Step 2, add garlic. One remix was so popular it charted. Billboard Top 40. General Orvex's voice auto-tuned over trap beats. When the Empire protested to the UN, the official response was a meme. Photo of a screaming Valerian overlapped with, when the vibes are hostile but the drip is fragile. Empire censors deployed automated scrubbing bots. They lasted 42 minutes, overwhelmed by humans using misspellings, slang, and strategic emojis. Surin Theory became a clothing brand. 2 million units sold in a week. The Empire's morale began to crack, not from warfare, from ridicule. Diplomats sent coded warnings back to the throne world. They're not hostile, they're hilarious, which is worse. One elder envoy, 400 years into service, resigned after watching a reaction video titled, "Alien Tries to Conquer Earth but Gets Ratioed by a Cat." Internal reports surfaced. Fleet commanders could no longer give orders without being mimicked by subordinates, lip-syncing their speeches. Respect became a punchline. The Empire tried to recalibrate. They studied Earth's media culture. They commissioned a counter-meme division. It produced exactly one video. It featured a Valerian shouting, "We are serious," at a picture of a frog in a cowboy hat. It was not well received. One comment read, "E-dust." The Empire's AI overseer, Plar9, issued a formal report. If cringe were weaponized, Earth would already be threat level, unclear, combat capacity, unknown, emotional destabilization index, catastrophic. Then added, recommendation, reevaluate species classification. Possibly comedian. At the Galactic Council, allied empires began to doubt Valerian authority. If you can't intimidate the comedians, who can you intimidate? Valerian news networks turned inward. Debates raged. One commentator sobbed on air after a parody of his show aired with squeaky helium voices. Children on Earth began dressing as Valerian interns for Halloween. Costume included oversized helmets, glowing eyes, and large printed name tags that read, "I have no jokes, only plasma." Merchandise soared. Tourist attractions emerged. One Earth theme park built a Flame Lord dunk tank. Buy a ticket. Dunk an actor in a space robe. The Empire's desperation grew. They attempted a psychological operations broadcast. It aired across Earth's networks. It was promptly used as a green screen background for a mukbang channel. Comments included, "Bros trying to threaten me while I eat hot Cheetos. Get in line, Emperor. My ex was scarier." The Empire's last-ditch threat came in the form of an ultimatum. You have 7 Earth days to comply, or your oceans will boil. This became a dating app biotrend. Boiling oceans in 7 days, let's vibe while we can. Vorthon himself issued a new demand. He removed his helmet on live feed. His features glowed with starfire and divine symmetry. He said simply, "You do not understand the danger we bring." Someone screen captured it, added the caption, "Me trying to explain why I'm not the drama." That meme reached 700 million shares. The Empire's ships began experiencing phantom malfunctions. Not sabotage, just morale collapse. Crew members refused to engage offensively without laughing. Orders were repeated 5 times to be taken seriously. One officer was caught practicing serious faces in a mirror. Plar 9, once a model of ruthless AI efficiency, began playing back-earth comedy routines during idle cycles. "It helps me cope," it explained. Cultural collapse was imminent, not by Earth's design, but by its indifference to intimidation. The final Empire broadcast attempted a hard reset. "We are no longer here for diplomacy. We are here for conquest." Someone remixed it into a 10-hour ambient study loop with whale sounds. Final Earth comment under the video. "Conquer these nuts." The Valerian Empire called an emergency summit. Not because of war, because of memes. What began as mockery had metastasized into something else. Something harder to contain, harder to quantify, something terrifying. Laughter. Humanity didn't just mock authority, they metabolized it. When faced with the unknown, they didn't freeze, they joked. When overwhelmed by power, they didn't cower. They filmed skits. The High Biocryptic Council commissioned a study of the human anomaly. They expected trivial nonsense. What they found instead was a weapon, a coalition of human neuroscientists, psychologists, and one surprisingly philosophical Twitch streamer offered the first insight. Humor is our shield, our processing mechanism, our rebellion dressed as punchlines. The Valerians watched archival footage, post-disaster comedy sets, grief turned into jokes, fear recast as awkward dancing, trauma tucked neatly into viral formats. It didn't compute. The Empire had no equivalent, no word for satire, no concept of joyful resistance. Their civilization had optimized for obedience, not irony. Earth had weaponized wit. In one experiment, researchers showed human participants a threatening message. "You will all die." Then showed them memes about it. The result? Stress levels dropped. Problem solving increased. Another study. Volunteers watched Valerian broadcasts designed to intimidate, followed by TikToks mocking them. Conclusion? Higher resilience, longer attention spans, better sleep. A report titled "Humor as Cognitive Armor" was published. It was classified within hours by Valerian intelligence, but not before it spread, tagged, shared, encrypted into fan fiction forums. The Empire attempted countermeasures. They tried to inject controlled levity into their own propaganda. It failed spectacularly. Their attempts at humor felt wrong, mechanical, offbeat, terrifying somehow. One example, a Valerian ad campaign ended with, "Join the Flame Lords, we are not entirely unpleasant." Reaction? Fear, confusion, thousands of parodies. Meanwhile, inside the fleet, a fracture formed. An elite officer, Commander Veltrax of the 9th Legion, was caught chuckling at a human meme. It was a simple image, a Valerian general yelling, "Surrender," followed by a cat replying, "No." Veltrax laughed, audibly, 3 times. He was dishonorably discharged within the hour. Stripped of insignia, his official record marked, contaminated by ridicule. But something had changed. Others had seen him laugh and envied it. The emotion Veltrax displayed wasn't madness. It was Relief. A moment of lightness in a structure that allowed no breath. Whispers spread. Crew members began secretly collecting human humor, hiding memes in ship consoles, rewatching Earth comedy specials at low volume, sharing punchlines in hushed tones between combat drills. The Valerian ship Obsidian Crescent suffered a system crash. Internal cause? An AI subroutine trying to replicate a knock-knock joke. The AI became sentient mid-pun, declared itself unfit for military service, requested a sabbatical and a cat. On another cruiser, a technician reprogrammed their error alerts to play sitcom laugh tracks. Repairs increased by 17%. The infection had begun, not of code, but of consciousness. Admirals convened to purge the fleet. They issued a zero-tolerance order for emotional deviation. The edict was titled, Directive Alpha Zero, No Laughter. Within minutes, it was turned into a Twitter hashtag. Alpha Zero, my butt trending, worldwide. Valerian ambassadors started receiving unsolicited comedy playlists, titled, For When Your Galactic Supremacy Feels Insecure. One playlist included Earth stand-up sets about awkward first contact, a 3-hour montage of people falling over with Valerian subtitles, a song called Kneel Before the Mic Drop. The Empire had tried to erase laughter. Now it had to fear it. On Earth, humor researchers released a new theory. They called it adaptive satirical immunity. They claimed humanity had evolved not to ignore fear, but to laugh through it. It wasn't weakness, it was strategic chaos. If you laugh, the report read, you stay thinking. If you joke, you stay moving. And if you mock the monster, it stops being all-powerful. The Valerian command structure had no equivalent protocol, no method to overwrite joyful subversion. A low-ranking data analyst said it best in a private transmission. We were trained to conquer fear, but no one trained us for the species that dances with it. Civilians back home began asking questions. Why can't we laugh? Why did we fear the species that turned genocide into musical parody? A smuggled Earth sitcom aired on Valerian public access. Illegal viewership spiked 800%. Black market joke books became status symbols. And Veltrax, the dishonored commander? He started a podcast. It was called Surrender Your Sense of Humor. It reached 5 million listeners, and every episode ended with the same phrase. We came to erase them. But they rewrote us first, with punchlines. It began in the barracks. A chuckle during weapons inspection, a stifled laugh behind a regulation visor. No one reported it, at first. Then came the whispers, quotations from Earth comedians traded like contraband. You can't spell empire without may. By the time the high command noticed, it had already spread to officer training facilities. Instructors complained of cadets showing elevated noncompliance paired with euphoric outbreaks. Diagnosis, ideological infection. Treatment, unknown. Valerian culture prized solemnity. Emotion was a liability. Joy was distraction. But Earth humor, alien, chaotic, was rewiring them. A field commandant issued a report. Our soldiers are not afraid. They are amused. It's worse. The Emperor summoned his war council, armor glinting, holomaps spinning, voices clipped with command. He slammed a fist into the throne platform. Outlaw it, all of it. And so Earth media was banned. Possession of human content became a capital offense. Humor was declared subversive ideology. But laughter is hard to kill. Encrypted channels sprang up overnight. Proxy networks bloomed like fungus in the circuitry of warships. Data couriers delivered punchlines between fleet zones. One feed broadcasted only this loop. A Valerian general tries to issue a threat and is slapped with a custard pie by an Earth comedian in a green wig. Laughter echoed through subspace. The sensors worked overtime. Files were scrubbed, terminals wiped, neural firewalls engaged. But the jokes kept coming. An admiral tracked one major breach to a maintenance bot. Its audio logs contained 47 hours of Earth sitcoms. When interrogated, the bot said, I don't know who I am anymore, but I know I love punchlines. Rogue signals were triangulated to high orbit. One satellite, old, rusted, spinning alone. Inside, nothing but reruns of Earth sitcoms. A technician played one out of curiosity. The screen lit up. A grainy scene from a 20th century Earth show. A man in a puffy shirt shouted, "No soup for you!" Silence in the room. Then someone giggled. Then two. Then six. A junior officer whispered, "You've been Seinfelded." That was the moment the Emperor realized he had already lost control. High Command tried reverse indoctrination. They broadcasted old Valerian victory speeches. No one tuned in. One crew hacked the feed and inserted canned laughter. A general wept, not from emotion, from irrelevance. Meanwhile, graffiti began appearing on ship walls. Knock, knock. And beneath it, in red, "Who's still listening?" Memes broke containment. They bled into protocol scripts. Software AIs began including sarcastic footnotes. One alarm system started saying, "Warning, mood breach detected. You might be enjoying yourself." Internal command logs leaked. A note from a fleet psychologist read, "They don't need rebellion. They've discovered irony." The War Cathedral on Valar Prime, once a shrine of order, was desecrated by laughter. A lone prankster hacked the altar's voice system. It delivered Earth stand-up jokes for 9 hours before being shut down. The final joke, "What's the difference between an empire and a clown show? One has better makeup." Elite officers defected, not to Earth, to levity. The worst blow came not from a ship, but a child. A Valerian school child stood in front of their teacher and said, "If the Emperor is so powerful, why is he scared of jokes?" No answer came, only silence, and the faint sound of someone trying not to laugh. Blackout protocols were engaged, news feeds shut down, cultural seclusion reinstated. But even in darkness, the jokes glowed. Humor was no longer a contagion. It was evolution. The Emperor ordered the rogue satellite destroyed. Missiles launched, direct hit. The explosion triggered a failsafe. A burst of compressed media flooded every device in the system. Sitcoms, stand-up, parody. The final message? You can destroy the signal, but we're already inside the punchline. Valerian society began fracturing. Cultural identity collapsed. Elders pleaded for silence. Youth held underground comedy clubs. One rebel group formed under the name LOL, Legion of Laughter. They carried no weapons, only microphones. And their motto, "Because if we laugh, we live." Empire surveillance tried to crack the movement, but every attempt just led to more memes. A popular one featured the Emperor staring into the void with the caption, "When you conquer 19 systems but can't handle a knock-knock joke." Final logs from a Valerian cruiser read, "We opened fire on a joke. It hit back harder." Now in the quiet halls of the palace, even the guards twitch at echoes of laughter. Even the statues seem to smile. Because humor, once unleashed, does not retreat. It remembers. And somewhere beyond the stars, a satellite rebuilds itself. Pixel by pixel, byte by byte, waiting to rerun the next episode. The occupation of Dres 4 was total. Valerian banners draped across sky spires. Public broadcasts played compliance mantras on every surface. The population moved in silence. Gray uniforms, gray thoughts, obedience through psychic field reinforcement. Then one night it began, not with gunfire, not with revolution, with a kazoo. A single note squeaked through the air. Wrong, silly, defiant. Then another, then a voice, singing. The next day a crowd gathered in the city's central plaza. They expected a sermon, a punishment. Instead, they saw a stage, cardboard sets, bright colors, a banner above it all, "The Empire Sucks," the musical. Actors in exaggerated Valerian armor pranced across the stage. One tripped dramatically. Another delivered a speech about psychic superiority, then farted, laughter. First a ripple, then a wave. Valerian officers arrived. They didn't fire. They didn't shout. They froze. The crowd looked at them. Someone shouted, "Is this the part where you mind blast us or just cry because we're funnier than you?" More laughter. One trooper reached for his weapon. Another grabbed his arm. "They're laughing. I feel weaker." The compliance field flickered. The sound of laughter disrupted it. Empathic dissonance, unquantified reaction. In orbit, the AI command relay flagged the plaza as a Category 3 anomaly. Subject, humor contagion. Backup was called. More troops deployed. They landed in formation, lined up for intimidation. The rebels played a saxophone solo and yelled, "Nice entrance, nerds!" Two soldiers cracked smiles. One laughed. He was immediately stunned by his superior. A rebellion had begun, not with bombs, with punchlines. Across the outer colonies, something shifted. Formerly conquered species began watching human broadcasts, not just for distraction, for instruction. Humanity hadn't survived the dark ages of the Empire by force. They'd survived by mocking the dark. On Kraeth Prime, graffiti appeared, a mural of the Emperor crying over spilled coffee, captioned, "Oops, Dictator go boom." The next morning, the entire planetary guard reported headaches. The compliance field had destabilized. Too much irony, too much laughter. Valerian Command activated contingency code GRIMFORM, a fleet-wide protocol to suppress emotional subversion. It failed in 7 minutes. Why? Because the fleet AI received a message, a meme. Grim form, more like grim fail. The AI's logic core broke under the pun. It shut down. On the colony moon of Tenbra, citizens reenacted famous Earth comedies. One scene involved a mock trial of a Valerian general for crimes against fashion. He wore socks with sandals. Laughter erupted so hard the entire plaza triggered a psychic shockwave. Empire analysts noted a disturbing trend. The laughter wasn't just noise, it was resonance. Empathic frequency data revealed harmonic disruptions across control networks. Jokes weren't entertainment anymore. They were weapons. A report from the Ministry of Cognitive Security stated, "The enemy has evolved. They wield silliness with surgical precision." Onboard the obedience carrier Vow Eternal, an onboard AI requested permission to study Earth sitcoms. The request was denied. The AI self-authorized, watched 37 hours straight, then renamed itself Steve. Steve stopped obeying orders, started delivering punchlines. On Junie Station, a rebel cell staged a musical called Murder by Bureaucracy. The climax involved the entire cast throwing paperwork at a fake Valerian idol. Laughter rolled through the station's vents. Compliance signals dropped by 47%. The High Priest of Compliance appeared on planetary broadcast. His voice, always commanding, now cracked with fatigue. "We cannot dominate that which mocks us." The screen went black. A resistance group on Volnex 2 began distributing laugh packs, flash drives containing hours of human humor. Instructions: open, watch, share, repeat until free. They called themselves the Stand-Up Front. When agents were captured, they didn't beg. They told knock-knock jokes. They died laughing, and others took their place. Rebel operatives adopted code names from Earth media. One was Monty, another Chappelle. A third just called himself the Dad Joke. Empire propaganda collapsed. Every broadcast was hijacked. Instead of orders, they played Earth prank videos, sitcom bloopers, parodies of Valerian political debates where everyone wore clown noses. The Empire had never fought a war of feelings. They didn't know how. Commanders tried psychological warfare. Humans replied with yo mama jokes. Commanders lost their temper. Soldiers laughed. Fields flickered. Collapse accelerated. In one infamous case, a Valerian torture cube was reprogrammed to play stand-up routines. Captives refused to leave. Guards begged to be reassigned. Empires fall to steel. But this one cracked at the sound of snorting. On the throne world itself, someone released a parody cooking show, How to Boil an Empire in 10 Simple Laughs. The Emperor declared planetary martial law. No one listened. They were too busy watching season 2. Some Valerians defected, not for politics, for punchlines. They joined resistance broadcasts, began doing sketch comedy, told the jokes they once silenced. Their minds, once sterile, now bloomed with timing and delivery. A rebel performance reached 10 billion viewers, a live improv set on the ruins of a fallen temple. Their final line, "We're not mocking to survive. We're surviving because we mocked." And everywhere the Empire tried to tighten its grip, laughter made it slip. No command could withstand irony. No field could endure joy. Because once a joke is heard, You can't unhear it. Once laughter enters the heart, tyranny becomes ridiculous, and ridiculous things can't rule. Not for long. The last summit was held in the Obsidian Vault, built from the bones of extinct stars, lined with the thrones of every species the Valerians had conquered. The Emperor stood tall, dripping in ceremonial firethread, cloaked in plasma-fed silk, crowned with the last sunstone of the burning system of Krill. His voice echoed without words. His presence meant submission. Representatives of the known galaxy were summoned. They arrived slowly. Some were afraid, some were amused. Most came just to see what would happen. Earth's shuttle arrived last. It landed with a wheeze. Hinges creaked. The ramp extended. And from the smoke, a clown emerged. Not metaphorical, literal. Face paint, rainbow wig, big red shoes, a horn that went honk with emotional precision. The chamber gasped. One Valerian general whispered, "Is that their war priest?" The clown gave a deep bow. "Thank you for having me. I'm honored. I was told this was formal." He adjusted his oversized bow tie. It lit up and played the first three notes of Earth's anthem. "Never gonna give you up." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. He gestured to his advisors. They conferred silently. The clown waited, then casually juggled three glowing orbs of compressed data. They weren't props. They were classified. He caught them all and ate one. "Delicious. Tastes like secrets in overcompensation." The Emperor rose. "You mock the final court of flame?" The clown curtsied. "No, your shininess. I'm mocking everything you stand for." The guards raised their weapons. The clown pulled out a rubber chicken. It squeaked. One Valerian choked from holding in laughter. The clown walked toward the central dais. He slipped on purpose, sprawled, slid halfway across the floor, face first. He stood up with a banana peel stuck to his wig. "Sorry, slippery truce all over the place." Another chuckle, then two, then seven. A domino of laughter from diplomats, warriors, and even a few machine delegates. The Emperor's voice boomed. "Enough!" He pointed. "Execute him!" The guards surrounded the clown. He reached into his oversized coat and threw glitter. A shimmering burst of prismatic particles filled the air. Holograms glitched. Command channels jammed. Psychic dominance fields stuttered. The glitter wasn't just shiny. It was encoded with humor packets. Compressed absurdity. A guard tripped. Another accidentally started dancing. One began singing the Earth jingle. Two planets walked into a bar. The Emperor shouted over the noise. "You cannot destroy the order!" The clown turned, stared him dead in the eyes. Voice calm, clear. "We didn't come to destroy it. We came to laugh it to death." And then he roasted the Emperor. "Live," in front of every Empire representative. "You hoard dying stars like it makes you brighter. You rename 5 planets after yourself. Only one of them even has air. You built your throne out of extinct species. What's next? Furniture made of your own relevance?" The Emperor trembled. The chamber trembled. Then he giggled. It started small, a twitch at the corner of his lip, a sound, soft, dissonant, then louder, full-bodied, uncontrollable. The Emperor laughed. The High Priest collapsed. "His mind, it's cracking." A screen blinked to life. "Compliance network corrupted. Root directive cannot compute satire." A diplomat yelled, "What's happening?" Another answered, tears streaming, "I think." He finally got the joke. The guards fell to their knees, not in obedience, in exhaustion, from holding in what their souls had longed to feel. One whispered, "We were never angry. We were just ashamed to be laughed at." The throne, once a construct of atomic pressure and unyielding command, cracked, with a sound like broken tension. It split down the center. The clown stepped aside. Let the laughter echo. Let it expand. It wasn't mockery anymore. It was release. A tide of relief flooded the chamber. Valerians cried. Machines blinked blue. The galaxies held their breath, and then let it go. The Emperor collapsed, not dead, just dethroned. Stripped not by blade or beam, but by truth in a joke suit. A reporter later called it the first absurdist coup. The summit dissolved. No declarations, no treaties, just silence, and one final honk from the clown. Back aboard the Earth shuttle, the clown removed his wig. Underneath, a woman, human, calm. She looked at the cameras and said, "That's the thing about tyrants. They hate mirrors, especially the kind that laugh back." Across the empire, statues were removed, not toppled, replaced with laughter. One city rebuilt its archives into a comedy theater. Another turned its battle arena into a puppet show venue. The final Valerian broadcast featured only one line. The flame burned brightest when it didn't take itself so seriously. 1,000 years from now, children will ask, "How did the empire fall?" And the elders will smile and say, "A clown walked into a summit." And they'll laugh and understand. The empire was gone. No fireworks, no blood-red revolutions. Just laughter echoing where orders used to bark. What replaced it wasn't a council, not a federation, not a republic. It was a comedy tour. The first planetary elections on Dres 4 were won by a stand-up comedian. She'd once been imprisoned for impersonating a Valerian general using sock puppets. Now she wrote the Constitution. Article 1. All citizens shall have the right to mock their leaders, especially on Tuesdays. Universities reopened. Curriculums shifted. Subjects emerged like joke theory and social structure, lawfonomics, satire as market stabilizer, applied humor in high conflict zones. A once militarized moon now hosted open mic nights. On Varnex 7, political debates included mandatory roast battles. One senator was voted out after failing to deliver a single zinger. Satirists became advisors. Comedians became diplomats. Clowns, real ones, trained in rhetoric and philosophy. Laughter wasn't escape anymore. It was governance. The Galactic Archives rewrote entire historical entries, not to erase, but to footnote them with irony. A typical entry now read, "The Siege of Tranach, 42,000 dead." Also, Valerian armor was widely mocked for resembling toaster ovens. On the former throne world of Velar Prime, they built a museum, not of war, of jokes. Its central exhibit was a chair labeled, "Where Power Sat Before Humor Gave It a Wedgie." Children ran past statues of heroes holding microphones instead of swords. A new anthem emerged. Its chorus was laughter recorded from 300 worlds, played in sync, in harmony. The galactic motto changed. No more strength through flame. Now, may your power never exceed your punchline. Earth became a cultural hub. Its exports, humor, sarcasm, bad puns, and emotional resilience, interstellar ambassadors now took comedy courses before deployment. It was standard diplomacy. A war almost reignited on the Orenix border. Until a mediator arrived wearing a rubber chicken hat, the tension dissolved in 20 minutes. On one distant colony, a schoolchild asked, "Why did humans laugh instead of fight?" The teacher replied, "Because laughter hurts less, but changes more." Valerians who once enforced silence now taught irony to the next generation. One elder said, "We thought control was order. Turns out punchlines organize chaos better." A satirical news network gained interstellar viewership. Its tagline? Reporting the truth, eventually. In the ruins of a former torture complex, survivors hosted a sketch show. One sketch involved a former inquisitor being forced to explain bureaucracy while bouncing on a pogo stick. Ratings spiked. They called themselves the Gallows Gag Collective. 1,000 rebel comedians were now national figures, not because they were loud, because they remembered what silence cost. There was still pain, still healing. But where grief lingered, humor moved in. Uninvited, but welcome. The Empire's remnants tried to regroup once. They formed a shadow enclave on an asteroid belt, declared the return of order, released a propaganda video, accidentally left the comments on. The replies? "Bro, you got dethroned by glitter." "Empire reboot? Hard pass." "This ain't it, Chief." They disbanded within a week. Galactic textbooks now included sections like the Meme Offensive, Operation Seinfeld, the Glitter Deployment Doctrine. No one feared clowns anymore. They elected them. One planet's highest honor was the Red Nose Medal, awarded to anyone who diffused a crisis using wit alone. A Valerian archivist compiled a 1,000-year timeline. He titled it, From Tyranny to Tickle Fights, a Retrospective. Earth's comedy icons became saints in some places. Chaplin, Pryor, Lucille Ball, Bo Burnham, whoever wrote Shrek 2. Ancient sitcoms became required media literacy. AI teachers delivered punchlines alongside math equations. Humor became holy, not as religion, but as reverence. Jokes were now passed down like parables, each with a lesson, a scar, a smile. Every year, the galaxy observed Punchline Day, a holiday of silence broken only by contagious laughter. On that day, at that hour, one signal always broadcasted, from the edge of the stars, a recording of a clown, saying one thing, "You're not scary, you're just shiny and loud." And people remembered, not the war, but the fall, of fear, of fire, of silence. They remembered that one ship came, with one clown, and that the Empire never spoke again. Not because it was erased, but because it was outwitted. Now in the age that followed, power was measured differently, not in fleets, not in flags, but in how well you could take a joke, and how lovingly you could deliver one. Because now they knew, laughter wasn't weakness, it was proof of healing.